Okay, so I realize that it's very important to keep context in mind as you're applying, the concept of intellectual courage, step 4, intellectual empathy, step 5, and intellectual perseverance, step 6. And so it's really important to keep in mind what is generally true of the three intellectual virtues that I just named. So I'm not going to repeat things that, I'm not going to just read through this like I did during week 13. Rather, I'm going to do a little tiny lecture that will help you situate your understanding and mindset about what it is that you're applying, such that when you do focus on a particular virtue, that you're more likely to give me a correct example. You're more likely, you might find it easier to find a correct example or application. So remember that basically you are assessing your intellectual virtue in the context of this course, and you're going to be focusing on three kinds of intellectual virtue. So as you know from the outline from step 1, it's going to be intellectual courage, intellectual empathy, and intellectual perseverance. I'm not having you focus on intellectual humility. I will be using intellectual humility as an example of what you will or will not do, generally speaking, with respect to the paragraph you will write in assessing yourself with respect to each of these particular kinds of intellectual virtue. That said, and this is going to help to ensure and make sure that you do not have any misunderstandings or distort what these words name, the concept, I do want to add to what I said here, or be more specific about how it applies, how this applies, and hence this applies to this self-assessment. So look at the second bullet point, a disposition, that's what an intellectual virtue is, a disposition that motivates one to seek and attain epistemic goods. Examples of epistemic goods being evidence, truth, rationality, understanding, and wisdom. We could say knowledge. So the idea here is that your ability to manifest and employ successfully these kinds of intellectual virtue will help you attain these epistemic goods, but also motivate you to pursue those epistemic goods. And again, these are examples of epistemic goods, and we could add knowledge to this. So this is a really, really important point. And again, if you're watching a video, you should be taking notes, and you should already have this PowerPoint. So if you have a printer, you can print this and take notes on it or on a sheet of notebook paper. So by the way, this is what I'm calling slide 1 for citation purposes. Okay, so something that's really, really important for you to know is that when it comes to this philosophy course and it comes to this ethics, the whole class consisted of epistemic goods. I was trying to help you deepen and broaden your understanding and knowledge of a particular kind of epistemic goods, or about a particular topic. One is your own moral compass, but also the moral compass of others. It is also to learn to analyze moral arguments and non-moral arguments, to engage with people's arguments about moral topics and moral concerns, to apply moral theory, to make a decision about what to do or what not to do, or what kind of a person to be. So those are all examples of epistemic goods that I had you striving for in this class. That said, doing the readings. The readings themselves entailed epistemic goods. Each of the readings that you did for this class were supposed to somehow enlighten you. So for example, with chapter 1, the epistemic good was to learn more about philosophy with a focus on ethics itself, what it is that a formal study of ethics is concerned with, and what it means to think philosophically about ethics. Then you read about arguments. So that was an epistemic good, learning about arguments and how to construct them, what they consist of, and evaluating them. Each time you read about a theory, that was an epistemic good, learning more about the theories and rules and principles and values that have been argued for and by various philosophers using reason and logic, while at the same time explaining and defining their concepts. You also, another epistemic good you could have that you were to pursue and attain had to do with the contemporary moral problems that you learned about, where you learned about real life contemporary moral issues, for example, genetic enhancement, poverty, things of that nature. Those chapters included epistemic goods. You were learning about contemporary moral problems, debates within those problems, how different theorists such as Aristotle or Kant or Mill or Bentham or someone else might influence how we respond to such problems, or how someone who has a theory. All of the stuff in the book that's full of epistemic goods. That's what the book offers you, is to help you by providing, information to you, insights, theories, facts about debates about contemporary moral issues, to help you decide what is true with respect to morality. Of course, using reason, to help you develop your understanding and knowledge to increase your wisdom when it comes to the philosophical study of right and wrong, that is morality, or being a good person or bad person, stuff like that. So now, not only the reading, but each of the assignments was an attempt to get you to acquire an epistemic good. So if I had you construct a response to a question or a prompt, I was trying to get you to think about, with food for thought, what you thought about something, or how you had lived maybe in the past. Like at the beginning of the semester, I asked you, what are some rules or principles that you use to make decisions? But as you know, we had various discussion board topics, like the case of the scenario where you're driving a truck full of COVID vaccines, and there's some protesters in the way in the highway. So even writing a response to that and thinking through your decision for that was an epistemic good, to see how you would think through that kind of situation using real life. An epistemic good was also reading what other people had to say about a scenario. The essay was an epistemic good. It was to help you learn how to apply a theory to a problem or situation or a question of moral significance. Now that was only with one theory, and we might apply the other theories differently because they are different theories with different approaches. But nevertheless, you now have a sense of what it might look like to apply a philosophical theory to a real life issue of moral significance. Then we read through the looting, right? The looting and protesting article, and I had you respond to questions and construct answers. Again, offering you epistemic goods, trying to deepen and further your understanding and wisdom and knowledge about what? The looting and the social protest. And now this very assignment is also aiming at getting you to develop, acquire, pursue an epistemic good. This is a self-assessment activity where you're broadly applying intellectual virtue, right? But with the focus on the definitions for these three right here, okay? So the epistemic good then is to confront your own character, yourself as a person, and your own disposition, right? The character traits and hence the dispositions that you manifested or didn't manifest while pursuing the epistemic goods that I just did a review of. So the readings, the theories, the contemporary moral problems, the scenarios, the discussion board topics, the joint reading of the looting and protesting article, responding to the prompts and questions about that article, doing the Aristotle essay, and then even this very assignment itself is to help you become more knowledgeable and to really be honest with yourself about your own character in this class, and the dispositions, the attitudes, the mindsets, the feelings that you had when you were prompted to seek and attain an epistemic good in virtue of doing what? Following instructions, doing the reading, following videos, completing assignments. So notice, a disposition influences one's attitudes or feelings about the pursuit, attainment, and or transmission of epistemic goods. So that's what I was saying. So your level of intellectual courage, empathy, and perseverance in this course is a disposition that influenced your attitude or feelings about having to complete a reading, to work through a reading, to prepare for an exam, to work through some videos, to work through some written instructions, to complete an assignment. That was the pursuit. And then that directly influenced whether or not you attained. It didn't necessarily guarantee that you hit the mark in your intellectual accomplishments, But your attitudes and feelings, insofar as their dispositions, insofar as those are character traits of intellect, of a good thinker and learner, definitely had something to do with whether or not you attained, the knowledge, the understanding, and the wisdom that various assignments, videos, instructions, examples, scenarios were designed to effect. And of course, that influences your action and behavior, rational and other. All right. So these are really important points, and I've kind of already started talking to you about to what you can apply, these concepts in terms of, how you did as a thinker and a learner in the context of this course. One final thing I want to say is that, of course, I can have in mind myself as a professor all the epistemic goods I want. So if you look at the page 2 of the syllabus and the student learning outcomes and the competencies and whatnot, and what the syllabus had us focusing on, and what the reading says the objectives are and whatnot, I can have all of those. So I bring what I can to the table to help you achieve those epistemic goods, to help you learn and think through things, to become more enlightened and to develop your philosophical moral intelligence. But you yourself bring something, right? So you yourself bring your character to the course. You yourself bring your character as a thinker and learner. And that's what this is all about, is to what extent did you bring in to this course throughout, the assignments and the learning and whatnot, each of these intellectual virtues.